Hey guys, I promised I'd do a video and then it started raining on me. I'm out here, I've actually spread out all of those tulip tree seeds, and I actually got some acorns that I also got from that family, and I spread them too. And so I'm a little out of breath. So I've been kind of walking around on my property, tossing those acorns around and the tulips. And I wanted to kind of show you a slight update on something that happened just in the last week. We've got a power line that goes, kind of cuts through our property a little bit, that the power company came through and cleared a little bit of our property for. And this is kind of some of it. This was part of the property that had a little denser growth, and so it's kind of unfortunate. You can see the power lines there. It's kind of unfortunate, but they ended up taking out some of my better trees. I mean, just take a look at this one over here. You kind of saw it at a distance a moment ago. I told them not to cut through and chip it all out, but they did anyway. I told them I was going to cut it up and use it for firewood, but their guy went ahead and did it anyway. So there's really not much left, except for this huge trunk, which, guys, I'm 6'5", or 6'4", sorry. This thing's pretty thick. It's like about 2 feet thick. Comes close to 3, closer to the bottom. It's a real beast. But anyway, it kind of made me sad they chipped all this up, because I would have at least liked this piece of my property to actually still be useful to me. Especially because we just recently converted the propane fireplace in the place back to use wood. But anyways, I promised that I would kind of tell you guys and show you a little about our property. And so I'm actually going to turn you around and let you walk a little bit of the property with me while I tell you what's going on. We're in the Ozarks of Oklahoma. I mean, Arkansas, sorry. We moved from Oklahoma. It's still a habit to say it sometimes. And most of the property is just grass. You can kind of see it in the background, and I'll kind of show it to you some more here in a minute. But this section of the property still has some growth in it. I don't know if you can quite see it, but there's a pond straight back that way, but that's on the other neighbor's property. And you can actually kind of see we've got some trees, and there's more shrubs and stuff down this way. It's a lot rockier. You can kind of see down here. This is kind of wild. It looks more like a tile. But like, this is a lot rockier over this way. This is a chunk of bedrock right here, right next to an old trunk. But it's a lot rockier and rougher down in this corner of our property. We've got 8 acres, but lots of trees bouncing around. I don't know if you can tell that on the camera or not, but yeah, here's more rocks. This is a little bit grassy spot. It's all laid down because the deer come through here quite a bit. We get a lot of deer. We see them at least a couple days a week. There's a couple of bucks that we see come through, and several does that kind of come in with or without them. But here you're actually coming to where you can see the house. Coming from that corner of the property to the house, you actually go right by where our chickens are at. Here's a little stream that comes through when it's raining. But we have that big, gorgeous looking oak right there, right next to the house. Years old. And we can't do too much with trees right here around the chicken coop because the septic tank runs to this side of the house. I'm kind of coming around that corner. Give you guys a bit of an angle. Sorry if it's real shaky and whatnot. But here, you can see more from the deer coming around the house. And back here, inside of this little wood fenced area that you're looking at right now, that is our garden area. There's this little gap right here that we're probably going to keep mowed down and put a lot of heavy pollinating wildflowers type stuff, because we can't grow anything with really deep roots because the septic's right there, and we have a water line right over there that we water the chickens with, keep the garden plants and trees and stuff like that, keep them watered with. Again, I'm sorry about the out of breath thing. I don't get enough hard labor these days, even with the stuff we do around here, because I used to be a cable guy and used to do a lot of really heavy lifting. And so I'm just not as in shape as I used to be. But anyway, so this is our garden. I'm gonna show you kind of what's going on. This is gonna be kind of a little compost area. There's some potatoes that we grew, but we didn't get them inside before they started greening. And so they're in our little compost area. Right now, we only have these 2 raised beds. We're using cinder blocks because we tried using pallet wood where we used to live, and it was kind of a failed experiment. Even with the chemicals and stuff like that they put in it, which people say it's going to leach into your soil and stuff, we weren't really too concerned about that. We just wanted things to grow. But even with that stuff in them, they still rotted basically to nothing. But sorry. The talking isn't helping my out of breathness either. But that is actually a comfrey plant. We actually dug that puppy up and brought it over from our old place in Oklahoma, and it's doing just fine. It's kind of struggling because this little patch of dirt here was actually the where the horse and donkey were that the lady kept. In fact, you can still see this dirt right here that I've been throwing all of our lawn clippings and stuff onto this area to sort of mulch it, to try to get stuff to grow, and it's actually working. There was none of this green for basically this whole like 20 to 30 feet out. It was basically bare dirt and rock from them stomping around. And even though it's into fall and everything's dying now because of the frosts that we started getting a couple of weeks ago, everything is still, you can see a difference, that there's actually stuff trying to grow other than the really scrubby, nasty stuff that the deer and the donkey just don't want to eat. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to show you. This is that maple. It's actually kind of going down. I think the root shock was a little bit too much for it. And then the frost started hitting just a few days after. And so there's still a tiny bit of green struggling on it, but I don't know if it's going to make it or not. Here we got some sunchokes, or Jerusalem artichokes, that we put up. There's 4 of them. They're actually a native to the area. We picked them up at a place out in the Fayetteville, Arkansas area that does native local growth stuff. This is deer fencing. We're putting it up to try to keep the deer out, because the deer have done a number on our plants already. They killed off 1 maple we planted, a sassafras, and several willows that we put up that we had really high hopes for. Here is a red maple. It's kind of struggling with the weather too, but it's going strong. This is one that the deer took almost every single leaf off of it, and it still shot back up, and that was just planted this year. Right here, we've got a chokeberry. And right here next to our firewood, most of this just got piled up yesterday. And right there, we've got a muscadine grape, which I'm excited. It seems to be doing okay. Over here, we've got 2 elderberries. We've actually used our own elderberries from back in Oklahoma and used them for our own teas and stuff like that, which is pretty exciting. And right here, the lone surviving berry that we planted along this fence right here. We put 4 berry plants across this fence. This is the one that made it. It's struggling, but it's actually doing pretty good. It just had a rough go of it. This right here was all the original growth from whenever it first got planted. All the rest of this is new. The old stuff completely died off almost instantly. We weren't sure if it would lose it too. But then the rest shot up, and we're like, all right, it's coming up from the roots. That's a good sign. Over here, because I skipped these before, this, you can tell by the round shape, is actually where that hay bin used to be. We moved it after I used and planted the potatoes in it, which actually worked really well. It had all that old hay from the last owner. There was a bunch of old hay in there, and we just left it to basically compost itself. We put the potatoes in it, and the potatoes did okay, even though we waited until way too late in the season. And these are actual normal, like Concord grapes or something like that, like you would make grape juice from. And we put this here, and it kind of looks silly with this goofy little store-bought arbor here, at the moment. But the thing is, our plan further down the line is to turn this section of the garden. We're going to put in one of those pergola type thingamabobs. I'm losing the name for it off the top of my head at the moment. But we're going to put a pergola right here. And it's probably going to be about a 10 by 14 foot or about 12 by 16, something like that. It's going to be plenty big enough to put some chairs on and do, you know, like little cookouts where we hang out here and have a little bonfire and stuff maybe. But that's a little bit further down the road. We've got a little higher priorities now, but we got a really good deal on that. We knew what we were going to do here, and so we decided to put the grapes there. We think that as they vine up and then we put the pergola in, as they grow along it, it'll just be really cool. And anyways, because you're probably sick of hearing my heavy breathing, I am sorry for that, by the way. It's not the most pleasant thing in the world. Okay, I think the rain's pretty much stopped. It's still going just a tiny bit, sorry. That fell out. But now that that's gone, I'll show you a couple of the other things that we've got. Let's see. This is the house. It's just kind of your typical house. We don't have anything super special going on with it right now, but I'll show you a couple of the things that we put. We have either spear or peppermint that we put right here. And we waited until, let's see, I think it was only about 2 or 3 months ago. We put one tiny sprig about right here, and then we put another tiny sprig of it right there to grow. And it's already starting to take over most of it. Now, this is not. But you can see that it spread all that way, and it's already kind of trying to come up a little further outside of the rocks. And this one right here basically just exploded in almost a perfect circle, except for a little gap right there. Whenever you're planting mint of any kind in any soil, beware. Mint is crazy. It has that reputation for a very, very good reason. At our old place in Oklahoma, we did the same thing. We put it in about the front 2/3 of our property was one wide porch, or not the property, sorry, the house was one big wide porch. And most of it had a little bed in front of it, just a decorative bed for flowers and stuff. We put a tiny, I think it was about a 6 by 6 potted spearmint plant or apple mint or something like that in it. Within 1 year, it was about 3 feet tall, and it was almost the entire width of the house. Be careful with mint. It is not a joke. Don't play with it. It was literally coming up through the porch. It was intense growing stuff. But anyway, back over here. Right here by the fence, I put up a honeysuckle plant. Think that this is going to be pretty cool. It looks a little stupid like it is. As it grows, you know how honeysuckle is. It grows. But this is a trumpet honeysuckle. This is the kind that's a little easier to control. And you don't have to worry about it literally taking over your property over the course of 5-10 years. But we're going to do sort of a pergola type effect with this too. A little further down the road, I'm going to expand it out, and I'm going to turn this into an outdoor reading nook. My wife doesn't know about that. She's going to love it. But that's like a 5-year plan thing. If we're still here and nothing happens, I want to surprise her with that. But anyway, right here, we have a little hazelnut. This one's kind of suffering too because of the weather changes. It's winter coming on. It's kind of the worst time of year for me to show you because all of this stuff looks like it's dying. But over here, now to give you some idea where we're at, and I know this video is getting long, back where that white house is where I started the video. That's where the power line comes in that you can probably see coming right here and across our driveway. So we started way back there, came over to the house, back behind the house. That right there, roughly, is where the pergola is going to go. That's where those grapes are. That's the back corner of our property. This is our driveway. It's long, and it's very, very easy to see our house. In fact, there was this guy when we first moved here who would pull up in the driveway across from us and would just park there. We're talking for like half an hour. It creeped us out enough that I went out there and I had a talk with him. and we've only seen them back once since. But anyways, whenever we first moved here, this big field right here, there was tons of overgrowth, but it sold to somebody else. They came out and they cleared it, and so now it's a beautiful view, but we don't have quite as much privacy as we had before. We can't really do much about that, but we were always working on doing something about it along the driveway here. And so we actually planted about 21 or 22 willow trees along with the border of our property and up this driveway. Only 2 made it last winter. The 2 that are left got attacked by deer, and those 2 were fighting. I like these 2 plants and I want them to make it. So at some point in the next, I need to check that out. But anyway, at some point in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be making little shelters for them out of some of the fencing that I have back there by the wood pile that you guys might have noticed. But I'm going to be making some shelters for the trees out of that fencing and some 2x4s. And I'm going to protect them. But right here is willow number 1, struggling. Survived the first winter that 20 of his brothers didn't. Once again, guys, I'm really sorry about the heavy breathing. I know it's obnoxious. And here is his other brother. The lone 2 survivors. And you can tell this one's been through it. That's where it first started growing up from. This is what's making it. The second little trunk. These 2 are fighters. I want them to make it so bad. Because we spent a lot of money for 22 willow trees. We were not happy whenever almost more than half of them did not make it through the first winter. The ones after that came up, showed us green for a couple weeks, and then we're all just gone. They just failed. I don't know what on earth happened with them, but these 2 that are still here, I want them to stick around. But anyways, that's it for the plants. I'm gonna make a second video where I kind of go into some of the other things that we're doing. But anyways, welcome to our little homestead. Take 2, since this is the second property we've been on that we've tried to do stuff. But anyways, you guys have a great day. Thank you for allowing me to waste your time, and take it easy. Bye.